Have you heard the latest buzz in the stock market? Palantir have finally made a rightful and justified entry into the S&P 500 list, capturing headlines and investors' excitement all at once. Following an announcement by S&P Global, both Palantir and Dell Technologies, titans in the tech market in their own right, are set to join the prestigious S&P 500 index, a move that's shaking up portfolios everywhere. While this news has sent shockwaves through the financial world, we're here to dig deeper into what it means for these companies and the broader market landscape. Buckle up as we explore why Palantir is now one of the hottest names on the stock ticker, and why it will continue to surge and possibly overtake Nvidia. Welcome back to Investocracy.
Right now today, with so much focus on AI and the potential of AI, what is Palantir's focus when it comes to its work with the U.S. government?
Well, there are two things we're working on. One is Palantir related, but arguably even more importantly, the U.S. Has every major provider of AI, which is in every other industrial revolution, you've had a just diversity of countries that have had the talent and the products. In this revolution, they're really all in America. So how do we get the U.S. government to use innovation from providers? Very few of these providers work closely or closely enough with the U.S. government. Now, in part, that's because many of these providers have had a somewhat timid view of helping the U.S. government. The Silicon Valley motto has been, I get rich, you get nothing. And they've obviously often extended that to the U.S. government. So my focus and our focus in D.C. is, one, to basically embarrass other people in AI to work with the U.S. government. It's like, we're doing very well here, you should also get involved. To talk to legislators, to explain to them that way too few of our dollars are being spent on AI. Palantir is one of, I think, the first company since the 50s that has produced government products that are in high demand commercially. So how do we get more companies that have commercially available products, meaning products that are proven in a competitive environment, into the U.S. government? And how do we share knowledge? So that's the part that we're doing here. We have a lot of clients, many of which are sensitive, and they get to talk to each other here about what they're doing, what's worked, and what's not.
It's not every day that two major players make their way into the elite ranks of the S&P 500, but here we are. Dell's return to the benchmark index after a hiatus, and Palantir's meteoric rise are stories you won't want to miss. To put things in perspective, imagine a high school reunion where not only the valedictorian returns, but also the prodigal genius who finally found their stride. It's a double whammy of market excitement. Let's start with Palantir, often described as the tech world's equivalent of a mystery novel, continues to enthrall investors. Co-founded by Alex Karp, Palantir is known for its robust data analytics capabilities utilized by government and military agencies. The company made its public debut on the New York Stock Exchange in 2020 and has significantly ramped up its profitability. Their net income soared to $135.6 million in the second quarter of 2024, a substantial leap from $27.9 million a year earlier. This trajectory has paved the way for Palantir's admission into the S&P 500, replacing American Airlines. Alex Karp encapsulates this rise, stating how they as a company are not merely just growing, they are actively redefining what it means to find hidden things in data and use it to our utmost advantage. This poetic yet straightforward statement speaks to the profound impact Palantir's technology is having, particularly in today's data-driven world. But before we go any further, if you want to keep up with Palantir's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates.
It's a golden age for tech. I mean, in my opinion, we are just in the early stages of a bull market. And if you look at what we've seen from AI revolution, just from broader tech, it's been strong from an earnings perspective. And the growth scare that we saw, it's just a bump in the road to what I believe is really this fourth industrial revolution playing out. And that's how we've handheld investors through this. This is the time to own tech, and I believe it's really just the start, still 9 p.m. in an AI party that we believe goes to 4 a.m.
We're in an election cycle. We're already starting to see some of the signs of cybersecurity issues and hacks as we do move closer to that November election day. On the flip side of that, we saw the debacle with CrowdStrike a couple of weeks ago as well. So how does that position us for cybersecurity earnings when we do have Palo Alto kicking them off on Monday?
Yeah, I actually think as a subsector, it's one of the strongest ones to own. And not just into year-end, but into early 2025. In terms of what we're seeing in more and more movements to the cloud, cyber is actually benefiting. Names like CyberArk, Checkpoint. I think Palo Alto, it's actually one of our top names the last few years. It's a table pounder in our opinion. This is a name where I think glass half empty still on the street, but now they're going for platformization. And I think when the Cash and the team are doing, they're going to gain more and more share. And even when you look at the CrowdStrike situation, a black eye for CrowdStrike, Palo Alto could benefit from that.
Do you expect to see that show up in the results we get next week?
Not in terms of what we see in terms of results, but I believe as we go into fiscal 25, this is just going to be another tailwind for them. You look at that free cash flow story, this is just what I believe is sort of the second inning of this game playing out for Palo Alto. They are going to be a share gainer. But you take a step back, when you look at Zscaler, Checkpoint, CyberArk, Palo Alto, this is really actually just the beginning of really the second, third stages, what I view as sort of this AI revolution. Cybersecurity is going to be a big beneficiary there. So I think as a subsector, could be the best outperformer going into year end.
To take away focus for just a second before we go back to explaining why Palantir is surging and will quite possibly overtake Nvidia in the future, it is worth noting that analysts and experts like Tom Lee have long predicted the rise of Palantir to the top, and as a supposed leader in the next phase of the AI revolution. Tom Lee has put the company on top of his lists time and time again to showcase to every young investor, and to the wider world in general, that Palantir was a company that was worth your time and your dime. It continues to be a company that you should keep your eyes on and invest in now if you ever wish to retire early with a buttload of cash. And the inclusion in the S&P 500 is the first recognition step for the whole world in regards to Palantir. It's worth noting, the inclusion in the S&P 500 isn't just a ceremonial nod. Fund managers diligently track this index and adjust their portfolios to mirror these inclusions. Dell and Palantir's addition thus signifies a tidal wave of investment activity. The market cap of companies in the index is around $33.5 billion, S&P Global said in a recent statement. Both Palantir and Dell hover well above this mark, with market caps of over $67 billion and $72 billion, respectively. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Is the growing government book of business for some of these cybersecurity names. I mean, you saw it, they're in a different piece of the AI software business, data analytics, Palantir, but you've seen it with Palantir recently as well. How meaningful is it to be seeing the federal government dole out more of these contracts?
I mean, and we've talked, the 202 area code, it is just a different mojo that we're seeing from a spending perspective. Look, Palo Alto, Messi of AI, you saw it firsthand in terms of what they're doing. Government is now really more and more focused on AI, next generation technology. That's going to benefit not just Palantir, it's going to benefit Oracle, going to benefit a lot of the cybersecurity names like Zscaler, names like Palo Alto. And that is going to be for the September quarter, important, especially in that fiscal year end.
Here is something to lighten the mood even further. Ever heard the joke about the stock market being like a roller coaster? Some days you're flying high, and on others, you're holding on for dear life. Well, companies like Dell and Palantir are currently in the front seats, hands up, and grinning ear to ear, and the excitement doesn't stop there. Palantir has recently crossed the much-anticipated $30 mark, a key psychological barrier and a reflection of investor confidence. The stock's path since its low in December 2022, where it hovered just under $6, has been phenomenal, marking a 400% increase. However, it's not all smooth sailing. The stock has experienced periods of consolidation, reflecting the market's volatile sentiment. With its most recent climb past $30, Palantir seems poised to maintain this upward momentum, aiming for the next big targets of $40 and possibly its all-time high of $45. Which is phenomenal considering what is currently happening in the tech stock market and how Nvidia is currently in its worst run ever, with everyone being negatively affected, except for Palantir, of course. The optimism around Palantir isn't unwarranted. Their recent second quarter earnings report revealed a 27% year-over-year revenue increase, driven by a staggering 55% surge in U.S. commercial revenue and a 41% increase in customer base. Analysts have been quick to raise their price targets, signaling widespread bullish sentiment. Moreover, Palantir's strategic partnerships have added another layer of intrigue. They've teamed up with Wendy's Quality Supply Chain Co-op, QSCC, to revolutionize supply chain management with their AI platform. They've also expanded their alliance with Microsoft to deploy AI tools across U.S. government agencies, integrating their capabilities via Azure OpenAI service for the U.S. defense and intelligence community.
Now, if you're an enterprise CIO, and this is the conversations I've had, you're looking toward AI platform approach, Palantir is potentially the first call. And that's why I think in this AI gold rush, what I view as the fourth industrial revolution, of course it's Nvidia, Microsoft top of the mountain with Nadella. You look at second, third, fourth derivatives, right now Palantir front and center. And that's why I think this is a stock. You look at our bull case model, I think this is ultimately $25, and I think as they execute, more investors start to look at it.
Wow, and the stock's trading at about 17 or about 17.50 right now. Steve, want to get your thoughts on this, especially since Alex Karp, one of the co-founders and the current CEO of Palantir, did pen a very long, I'll say, op-ed in the New York Times about AI earlier this week.
Yeah, and comparing it to Oppenheimer and how this is really an opportunity. We hear so much, at least this is Karp's view, we hear so much from the community developing AI about being responsible and safe. And even years ago, he brings up the examples of Microsoft employees upset about working with the Army and Google employees upset about doing the digital satellite imagery. He seems to kind of embrace it. I just want to pick out one quote from this. I mean, he calls for a, quote, more intimate collaboration between the state and technology sector, really comparing it to what Oppenheimer did, if you saw the movie or read the book or the history lesson about that, working hand in hand with the government before someone else does it. And he brings up the case about Ukraine. And I guess the other thing, Dan, I was kind of curious for your take on this, because there is a meme stockiness to Palantir, too. I'm wondering how much of that factors into your calculation there,
Yeah,
too.
no doubt. I mean, there's a huge retail presence.
Right.
And but also I think this is one where maybe retail has been ahead of institutional in terms of understanding the actual potential AI story. I can tell you in my conversations today, it's really institutional investors being like, okay, what am I missing in this story? Where is the actual total addressable market opportunity? And can they go from government to commercial? Because I think when you start to look at that, for them is really the opportunity. And if you're a CIO of an enterprise, there's no better reference accounts than those the two areas.
If there's ever been a time to consider investing in Palantir, it's now. This company is not just joining the S&P 500. It is revolutionizing its respective space and driving unprecedented growth with its unbeatable data analytics prowess and strategic partnerships in the field of AI, clearly indicating upward trajectory. As of August 2024, Palantir has regained significant ground, crossing the $30 mark, a feat that hasn't been sustainable for over a year. But it is a feat that has got all experts and analysts swearing by its name and its possible future, dethroning Nvidia as a leader in the AI space. Now more than ever, the stock market is buzzing with this news, and it's a compelling time to consider adding Palantir to your investment portfolio. But don't just take our word for it. What are your thoughts on these developments? Are you as excited as the market seems to be? Share your views, and let's keep the conversation going. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Palantir have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen.